Perhaps while watching Robert Eggers' new version of Nosferatu, you found yourself thinking, "This seems familiar," and the storyline felt strikingly recognizable. The same historical era, the same story premise. A young real estate clerk, due to the obsession of his senior colleague, must leave his beautiful fiancée behind for an extended period to travel to distant Transylvania. There, he is tasked with closing the purchase of a grand European mansion on behalf of a mysterious aristocrat who resides in an ancient creepy castle, shrouded in secrets from the past and instills fear in local villagers. Later, this nobleman, captivated by a photo of the clerk's fiancée, embarks on a ship trip across many seas to reach her and claim her love entirely. He partially succeeds, but the story ends tragically. This sense of déjà vu is easy to explain. Both Count Orlok, better known as Nosferatu, a term derived from the Latin word for vampire, and the infamous Count Dracula share the same literary roots. Like any iconic figure of popular culture or comic lore, the most famous of all bloodsuckers and an eternal Halloween archetype deserves countless interpretations and variations from a wide array of creators. Despite drawing from the same source material, Irish author Bram Stoker's novel, these films reveal contrasting approaches to the themes of horror, love, sin, and human fear. Let's delve into what makes each of them unique, the key similarities and differences, and their contributions to cinematic culture. 1922 motion picture Nosferatu, a symphony of horror directed by Friedrich Murnau, was the first screen adaptation of Stoker's classic novel, albeit an unofficial one. At that time, German expressionism in cinema was at its peak, and this film vividly embodies the period's style. Distorted sets, stark contrasts of light and shadow, and an overarching atmosphere of dread and unease. Murnau, a central figure in expressionism, crafted a visual masterpiece that critics have described as eerie, unsettling, deeply disquieting, and capable of influencing viewers on a subconscious level. Screenwriter Henrik Galeen adapted and reimagined Stoker's novel, altering names and plot details to sidestep copyright issues. However, Stoker's widow, already harboring significant resentment toward Germany after World War I, vehemently protested and filed a lawsuit demanding all copies of the motion picture be destroyed. Fortunately, despite a court ruling in her favor, few copies miraculously survived. With Max Schreck's unparalleled and spooky performance as Count Orlok, Nosferatu became the cornerstone of the horror genre. Fast forward to today. Visionary filmmaker Robert Eggers, known for such strikingly atmospheric works as The Witch and The Lighthouse, has taken on the challenge of reimagining Nosferatu. Eggers approaches the project with profound respect for its source material. His gothic horror faithfully echoes the original's aesthetic, blending it with his unique visual style and modern cinematic language. Like its predecessor, his movie prioritizes atmosphere, building an unrelenting sense of suspense and dread. Eggers incorporates elements reminiscent of Tim Burton's Gothic tone, though less exaggerated, while employing his signature painterly, static shots that seem to spring to life. His meticulous recreation of 19th century settings further enhances the immersive experience. The film doesn't merely aim to terrify, it also delves into themes of isolation, humanity's fear of the unknown, and the societal transformations brought on by the Industrial Revolution. Eggers' Nosferatu stands as both a tribute to classic cinema and a distinct artistic achievement in its own right. In contrast, Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992, leans heavily into the story's sensual and emotional dimensions. Coppola himself described the movie as a romantic drama about love, a sentiment evident in every frame. This Dracula, brought to life by the director of The Godfather, is not merely a monster, but a tragic figure, whose motivations are relatable and whose fate evokes profound empathy. Driven by the yearning for lost love, his emotions, love, despair, anguish, lend the character depth and complexity. Lavish costumes, ornate sets, and an evocative score amplify the film's epic quality, while its central conflict between passion and morality cements its status as a cinematic classic. When comparing the two portrayals of Dracula, Orlok in Nosferatu and Stoker/Coppola's Count, Coppola offers a more fully realized, multi-dimensional character. Orlik remains a relentless predator, an inevitable force of terror preying on his victims and invoking primal fear. Both films also reflect the spirit of their respective eras. Coppola's Dracula transports viewers to Victorian England at the twilight of the 19th century, a time of immense social and scientific upheaval, when fear of the unknown was at its peak. Eggers' Nosferatu, in keeping with Gallen's original adaptation, returns to the historical backdrop of Kaiser's Germany in 1838. Set during the late autumn and harsh, pandemic-stricken winter in a fictional bourgeois town, the motion picture captures a society beginning to feel the effects of industrialization across Europe. Transylvania, the birthplace of both counts, is vividly depicted in each film as a mysterious edge of Europe. To the Western European characters, it's a land where local superstition intertwines with Orthodox Christianity, ancient pagan rites, and a fatalistic view of the world. The inhabitants revere archaic beliefs, fear mythical creatures, and engage in rituals that seem both archaic and ominous. A key theme in both movies is sexuality, desire, passion, betrayal, and sin. Coppola's Dracula portrays these elements as integral to a romantic tragedy, intertwining love and lust to create a rich emotional tapestry. In Nosferatu, however, sexuality takes on a darker, more menacing tone, threatening and almost pathological. This interpretation reinforces the film's pervasive sense of fear and alienation, evoking deep unease and a sense of inevitability. These differences reflect the artistic goals of their respective directors. Eggers seeks to preserve the original's brooding, oppressive atmosphere, while Coppola focuses on emotional connections and the complexities of human relationships. The depth of the stories in both films hinges on the complexity of their characters. Winona Ryder, portraying Mina Harker, delivers a mesmerizing performance with her radiant beauty and gentle, canonically feminine demeanor, instantly captivating audiences. In Nosferatu, Lily Rose Depp takes on the role of Ellen with a controversial yet evocative performance, avoiding the overacting seen in some of her earlier movies. Her take on the character will likely polarize viewers, drawing both admiration and criticism. The male leads, Thomas and Jonathan, offer intriguing contrasts in their reactions to the ominous Count. Keanu Reeves, as Jonathan Harker, delivers a somewhat stiff performance, initially responding to life-threatening danger with a calm indifference and a poker face. Only later does his character begin to convey terror and panic. In contrast, Nicholas Hoult, despite his princely Disney-like appearance, depicts Thomas Hutter with more natural responses to fear and unease in the presence of the sinister monster. His expressive performance adds psychological depth and credibility to the motion picture. Anthony Hopkins' Van Helsing, the eccentric and borderline unhinged exorcist, steals the show in Dracula. His captivating presence walks the fine line between good and evil, commanding the audience's attention. Meanwhile, Robert Eggers invited Willem Dafoe to represent Von Franz, an occult professor inspired by the legendary Van Helsing. Dafoe, a frequent collaborator of Eggers, previously played the original Nosferatu Max Schreck in the 2000 movie Shadow of the Vampire with John Malkovich. Despite Dafoe's undeniable talent, the role occasionally feels like it could have been more fittingly filled by a less familiar actor. Aaron Taylor Johnson impressively captures the essence of a stylish, self-assured 19th century dandy. Initially exuding confidence, thinking he has everything under control and skepticism towards supernatural beliefs, his character undergoes a compelling transformation, embodying grief and despair after a profound personal loss. This performance redeems him from his less successful recent outing in Kraven the Hunter. Bill Skarsgård, who is a handsome young actor and could easily play the male lead, transforms into a frightening monster again after his iconic role in The It. His grotesque and unsettling portrayal of the otherworldly Count sends shivers down spines. This vile, ugly antagonist from the other world gives you goosebumps and discomfort when you see him and hear his voice. However, the script leaves much to be desired regarding his backstory, motivations, and the meaning of his pentagram-like lineage symbol. This lack of depth contrasts starkly with the richly detailed characterization of Dracula in Coppola's adaptation. Similarly, Ellen's backstory, how and why she fell under the demon's spell, is frustratingly underexplored. Gary Oldman's Dracula benefits from a far more developed narrative. His motivations and actions are profoundly human, a man defying humanity and divine will to reunite with his lost love. This tragic yet understandable drive makes his character both relatable and deeply compelling. Eggers' Nosferatu impresses with inventive use of rats, although it's worth noting that Dracula also commanded these rodents in the original source. As plague-ridden vermin overrun a tranquil European town, turning it into a hopeless prison, the demonic count's looming presence mirrors their inexorable spread, leaving the protagonist counting down to their doom. Cinematic use of flowers is another powerful artistic touch. In both movies, the wilting of blooms serves as a harbinger of dread, signaling the encroaching presence of evil. This simple yet evocative visual metaphor enhances the unsettling atmosphere. In conclusion, 2024's Nosferatu and 1992's Dracula are not merely two takes on the same story. Despite their shared literary roots, they explore vastly different themes. Eggers crafts an atmospheric and chilling homage to gothic horror, while Coppola weaves an emotional, romantic tapestry. Both films leave a lasting impact, reminding audiences that classic tales can be reimagined in fresh, compelling ways. Which of these movies left a stronger impression on you? Let me know in the comments.